Well, hello there and welcome to Travels with Geordie. If this is your first visit, my name is Peter Knowles and I live on this classic wooden motor cruiser here in Victoria, British Columbia, along with the loving memory of my pup Geordie, whom the boat and the channel are named after. Anyway, I'm doing some pretty major work to it in anticipation of some pretty major cruising someday. If that's the sort of thing you might be interested in, please consider sticking around and subscribing. We'd love to have you. Well, so much for no more fog. This was supposed to be a sunny day and I was really looking forward to getting some more varnish on, but there's no way this dew will come off in time. The sun is out and I took advantage of the dampness this morning to wash the whole boat, which was long overdue because it was filthy. So the great thing about it is that this side of the boat will be exposed to sun for the next several hours. I've just toweled it all down dry, so I'm going to put a heat gun in some shaded spots and make sure it is bone dry, sand it and varnish it. I'll at least get one more coat on the starboard side today and hopefully the cockpit as well. And what it may mean this time of year is that I can't expect to be able to do the port side opposite the bulk of the sun. I'll have to spin the boat for every coat, but that's not that much difficulty. Okay. Sanding is a little easier this time, but we'll get into that in a second. Related to the heat gun, the fact that it rained on the boat several times with only 2 coats of varnish on it brought back some of this insidious moisture darkness. Now, the varnish there is still in pretty good shape. That's gone dark because it's wet. It's just that it's damp from moisture getting in here, which isn't well sealed. So it's not that I have to sand that back out again. Honestly, if I let this sit in the sun for 2 or 3 days, that would brighten up again. It would look pretty good. So I'm going to accelerate that a bit with the heat gun. Again, I don't want to go so hot that I damage the varnish here, but just accelerate taking that darkness out of it. I got to get this all sealed up before we get any more rain. And I'm running out of time. Okay, so it's actually getting hot now. Up on the foredeck, and I'm going to start on the tow rail and rub rail. So instead of sanding from the second and subsequent coats forward, I only just scuffed them up with a Scotch-Brite green. This stuff is amazing. However, it will fill relatively quickly with the gunk that I'm taking off, so you use them up relatively quickly, more quickly than I'd like. You can actually wash these out, but not while you're working because you want to keep them dry, so you got to have a few of those handy. I'll also have a sanding block because I'll use that as a backer to hold this. In some cases I'll want to use a actual hard sanding block and or my favorite little body filler thing for getting in little crevices, etc. And I'm bringing with me 1 sheet of the Abranet sandpaper if I get to somewhere where I really need to be a little more aggressive. Now, of course, a Scotch-Brite pad is scuffing the surface of the varnish fairly well, but it's not sanding it perfectly fair like fine sandpaper would. So those who were trying to achieve that mirror finish on their cabin sides wouldn't go this route. They would sand it flat. But in terms of getting varnish to bond to the previous coat, this is awesome because it's quick, it's easy, it doesn't make a mess, and it doesn't remove too much material. Perhaps for the last coat or two I'll sand it to get it just a little bit more fair, but that's an issue for next spring. Let's just slap some varnish on here now. Oh, and the other thing, it doesn't mind, the wood doesn't mind rubbing it against the grain. It has absolutely no ill effect on the subsequent varnishing. Okay, done. Scuffed up all the way. That went remarkably well. It pretty much uses 3, probably 4 sheets of Scotch-Brite per side. But I did the windshield as well. Okay, quick dust down, get some varnish on. Hurry up, Peter. This is definitely an expedient coat, but it's going on okay, it's going good. The professional varnishers and finishers amongst you will be appalled by my approach to finishing, but I think I've mentioned before that I adhere to a 90-10 philosophy of finishing, and that's to get 90% of the effect for 10% of the work, and that's often possible. For instance, this varnishing all over the glass thing is a bit appalling for some, but one huge advantage of it is that it allows me to sand subsequent layers without risk of scratching the glass. And it'll come off very easily with a razor when this is all done. Ooh, it's getting hot. Kind of run out of good weather, although today is good, but the next 4 days are a storm coming through. So I've got to do something about waterproofing, which is really tough because I really was putting all my emphasis on varnishing and not waterproofing. So there's a few things I got to get to. One of them is this nasty section of the aft cabin deck. You can see I'm just starting to scrape at it. Basically, it's a bit punky in here. The fiberglass that was put over this has been leaking, and the wood underneath it here and back here and actually in a few other spots is not in great shape. Actually, I take that back. It's not plywood here, it's plywood under the main deck. At this curve here on the side of the coach roof, it's actually strips of wood. And so they're obviously getting a little punky, and there's a major repair to happen in here. But in the meantime, I would really rather it didn't leak so bad. So what you can see is the remnants of some Gorilla Tape, which is awesome stuff that I had on here for a couple of years. However, it can't be peeled off after a couple of years because the UV has completely destroyed it. So I'm having to just scrape it all off along with much of the paint. And then I'm going to decide what I'm going to do. I have about 4 hours to deal with this and many other places where the boat leaks, so I can't put too much into it. Not very nice. Okay, well, with the two worst sections scraped off, you can easily see that there's some trouble here. In fact, it's loose in quite a few places, so we can all look forward to a pretty major project here at some point. It'll probably happen around the same time all of this happens, and yeah, that's going to be big. Okay, so, but what I've decided, because I'm now running out of time, I'm just going to tape it again. So I'll clean it up just a little more so the tape will stick properly, and that'll get me through to the spring. Ugly, I know, but yeah. A little wipe down with acetone. Okay, I know what you're thinking. Tape, really, Peter, really? But this is really amazing tape. And it will buy me enough time till spring to deal with that. Well, with that little sin out of the way, let's move on to the next sin. And that will be how I'm going to deal with all of these holes where the forward pulpit stanchions used to be. Because they're drilled down into plywood, and if they get moisture in them all winter, bad things will happen. So my plan is to simply drill them all out with a little bit of a counterbore, get them good and dry with a little bit of a heat, and then fill that with thickened epoxy and let it bulb up over the top for a little bit, and with any luck that will get me through to spring, and then I can clean it up properly and put some little glass patches over it. I know those of you who are professionals in this sort of thing won't find that to be a very professional repair, but it's what I can do in the next 45 minutes, half an hour hopefully. You may have noticed that when I drilled these out, I got this rather punky, rotten wood goo. So what I'm going to do is dry them out as much as I can. And then I'm probably not going to put epoxy in there because I don't think I can get that to be in good enough condition for the epoxy to actually do anything. So I'll probably put some goop on. Yeah. And by some goop, I mean this stuff. If you're familiar with it, you know how shameful this is. This is like a lightweight, temporary, caulking, silicone-y typey stuff. I've used it in the past. It deals with 1 season worth of dealing with problems. If you don't take this off the following spring, it turns into a permanent sticky disaster. Yeah. As disgusting as that is, it won't leak. One of about 1,000 other spots that I should probably do something about, and for this it's going to be masking tape. And if you've ever been hesitant to pay what it costs for this particular brand, I don't generally go for endorsing stuff, but this stuff will stay in good shape on here in the weather for several weeks and come off easy. And if you're going to be as tacky as to put masking tape on your boat to protect it from the weather, it might as well be good stuff. Dealing with some pesky leaks on MV Zephyrs too. This is the time of year where you wish you'd been really productive all summer and got all the problems dealt with. But if you don't deal with them today, you'll have them all winter. So we panic and do unsavory repairs. It'll have to do. There's lots of other things we can worry about, believe me. You can probably think of two more things that a heavy windstorm would probably have some effect on us. The big green thing and the big ugly thing. That was the easy one. Some of you have commented that the awning thingy, bimini, whatever it is, thingy doesn't look as horrific as it used to. Well, I actually saw some footage of lowering it. It's actually 6 inches lower at the front and 10 inches lower at the back than it was, and I do also agree. I think it looks a heck of a lot better. I just barely have headroom at the front, which I would need to navigate the boat once I put the helm up there. And at the back, well, you don't need to stand up back there. You're sort of crouching to head down the ladder into the cockpit anyway. So I think it looks substantially better. However, I lost all the footage of showing you that. So now I'm showing it now. Let's take it off. So with the sun blazing down, it feels really ridiculous to have to take this down, but the forecast says 4 days of a storm front coming through, and I think we all agree it wouldn't survive a storm. Here we go. See, I do own a screw gun. You know, that went a lot easier and quicker than I thought it would. That won't blow away. We're good. All right. I'm excited. I'm off to check out the new engine, the donor engine for the boat. It's also a Perkins 4236. However, it's a genset engine. So there may be things like the oil pan, possibly the injection pump, that need to be modified for it to work as a main propulsion engine. It is a marinized engine. It's for a boat, but the most neat thing about it is it's new. Next to new, test hours, etc. Anyway, that's what I've heard. Let's find out what it actually looks like. Well, there she is. She was just run, started up real sweet. Very pleased with that. And it looks like it has the regular, the same injection pump as a propulsion engine, so I don't have to worry about that. It's the newer style, so none of my ancillaries will work with it, but that's okay because none of my ancillaries are any good. Apparently it comes with a spare manifold, which is good because this one is not so happy, and a spare heat exchanger. So on the whole, I'm really pleased. I'm not really buying it's new, but it's might have been rebuilt. Who knows? Yeah. All right then. Well, I don't want to suggest for a moment that I'm the least bit disappointed in the engine. You know, there may have been some confusion about this sort of as new sort of status that it had. The engine looks great. It started relatively quickly. Unfortunately, quite a bit of black smoke, certainly a lot more than the engine in MV Zephyrus, but it's been laid up for a while, so hopefully that will improve. No significant blow-bys when I opened the oil breather, so that's very promising. Good oil pressure. It did lope a bit at idle, but again, the engine's been sitting quite a while. The truth is, it's being offered to me at a reasonable price, and there aren't many options out there, so I'm thrilled. Just need to get going on giving it a full assessment, getting it here, getting the old one out, deciding what to do with it, because the old engine runs, but there's no market for it at all without the ancillaries. And for the same reason that it's of no value to me, it's of no value to anyone. So it's probably going to the scrapyard. So if you need a long block Perkins 4236 with no heat exchanger, no exhaust manifold, no water pump, probably no oil pan, let me know. I'm excited, really, I'm excited. All right. Well, hello there, and welcome to the Travels with Geordie Beer of the Week. I'm laughing at myself because of the beer I have to share with you in a minute. So let's dive right in, shall we? We're inside because the incredible wind that has been forecast for the last week has finally arrived, but without rain. So it's beautiful weather, but it's just too windy to do this outside. Okay, so one of my local breweries, Moon Underwater, I was pretty excited to see they have a new beer. And in the liquor store, when I saw it, I saw, Boys in the Yard. I thought, oh yeah, maybe that'll be really, really great. Gosh knows what it is. But I didn't have my glasses with me, so I couldn't read what it says directly underneath. Passion Fruit Milkshake IPA. Okay, well, it's an IPA. Let's see how that goes. It's bound to be a disastrous pour. I just expected it. Looks like it is very cloudy. I don't know if that means it's turbid. I'm not going to give it a swell because I can't get it all in this glass. And let's just see what this tastes like. A milkshake IPA. If I'm not shamed right out of the beer of the week from this one, I don't know what it would be. All right. Look at the color of that. Okay, passion fruit. Ooh. I'm going to drink it. Moon Underwater. That is very unusual. There's someone out there that loves that, but it's not me. Anyway, I always feel bad when I don't like the beer, but there are people to thank. But I'll move right ahead because I still have an immense gratitude for those who have been helping and supporting the channel. So, starting off, last week's t-shirt winner was Kevin McCarthy, and I've been in touch with him. So, he's won his t-shirt and he'll get a t-shirt. Two new patrons this week. Thank you ever so much. Will Hatton and Jeff McKay. Thank you both, and cheers, and thank you for coming aboard. As you all know, I am now very, very, well, I would say dependent on the patronage and the support I'm getting through here. I couldn't possibly do this without you all, so thank you all so much. And off the Amazon wish list, another crazy week. I'm just so pleased. A bottle of tung oil. How fantastic, because as I mentioned, it's getting a little bit hard to get, and that came from Way Ashfa. I hope I pronounced that correctly. Thank you ever so much. Also on the Amazon wish list, this awesome Manfrotto camera boom arm thing. This is going to be fantastic. This works with my existing Manfrotto tripod, which you're currently sitting on. This will mostly be useful when I do those whiteboard animations, because I've had a terrible time trying to figure a way to mount the camera to look straight down but not be in the way. So I'm excited about that. But of course, as soon as you have a toy like this, you think of all kinds of neat things you can do with it. And that came from Hal Steele. Thank you ever so much, Hal. That's a great gift. And wow, these two little toys work together. They are a single thing. What they are is the transmitter and receiver for a wireless mic system. Yes, finally, when I turn from the camera, you'll still hear me because I wear this part on me, possibly with this cute little dead cat wind muff. I can also use it with a lapel mic, lavalier mic, and I have one, so we'll see how that works. But apparently the built-in mic is exceptional. And this clips onto the camera, and from any great distance, well, we're gonna play with it. You get nice, clear audio, and that'll be so handy, especially when we get back to the DIY stuff inside the boat, working around. I can walk all over the place and never worry about dropping the audio. And that very generous gift came from Darcy Duff. Thank you ever so much, Darcy. So thank you all three for the wonderful gifts, and my gosh, we'll start to put those into play and see how much better these episodes can be, really. Excellent. Now, one more gift, and this was not off the Amazon wish list. This was just gifted to me. Will you look at this? This is a cast bronze weathered Samson post. What a beauty. This is a vintage thing that, you know, has been lovingly hung on to and incredibly kindly gifted to me by Kevin and Shari Ryan. And they're very generous, because we may hear from them again. This is an absolute gem and something I have always really wanted for the boat. So this sits on the foredeck. This will replace the completely disastrous, excuse me, cleat that I have up there for Maine mooring lines. So the bow mooring lines, this will also take the anchor lead off the chain when I'm anchoring. It would also be a tow bit if I ever had to be towed. Basically a substantial foredeck cleat, and I think period for the boat. Just a quick note on that. Bronze. This boat was built in 1953. At that time, chrome was all the rage. Chris Craft had really created a passion for chrome, and most of the cruisers of that era made all the exterior metal chrome. And I am just so fond of bronze. So I'm going to be actually bringing all the existing chrome on the boat back to bronze, and any new metal outside, especially on the boat, will be natural bronze. And I just love it. Once you have a wooden boat, after a while, you just go crazy about bronze. I don't really know what it is. It's just something that happens. So again, cheers to you both. That is a beautiful, beautiful gift. Splendid. No, not splendid, but the gift is splendid. The beer is horrible. Okay, now you need a word of the week. If you're new to the channel, every week I give away a Travels with Geordie t-shirt, and the way to win that is to use the word I'm about to give you in a comment down below, and I pick at random over the first week's worth of comments, and if I pick you, you'll win a Travels with Geordie t-shirt. So the word of the week this week, can you guess it, is bronze. So use the word bronze in a comment down below, and you may win a Travels with Geordie t-shirt. See you next week, or maybe a little sooner.